So let's go ahead and talk about two sample mean t-test. And we're not going to do a two sample z-test in this class. Mainly you do t-test. So there's two types we're going to talk about. There's the independent sample t-test and the dependent sample t-test, or it can also be referred to as paired t-test. So for an independent sample t-test, we're going to compare two samples to see if they follow the same trend or pattern. So it could be two football team scores, two class exams, and we're not going to pull the variances. So this is when you have two different groups that are not dependent on one another. Like I could look at my online class versus my face-to-face. You could look at one hospital versus another. In logistics, you could look at the average shipping time of company A versus company B if you want to see if there's an overall difference. Now, dependent sample t-test or paired t-test, you're comparing two samples at different points in time. So you could look at one football team score before and after a new coach, one class's pre and post test. That is the most common that I really see dependent sample t-test being done. Usually you give somebody in the beginning, you do some kind of experiment or trial, and then you find the results at the end. Medical, you could also see if, like, for a logistics company, if you're doing shipping times within your warehouse, you could see that the average shipping time before you did some kind of innovation and then the shipping time after the innovation and find the difference in the two times. So this table right here is only for the independent sample t-test hypotheses. So let me talk about these. I'm going to cut the video, then I'm going to do some examples for independent sample t-test, and then I'll show you the ones for dependent. Again, this is only for independent sample t-test hypothesis. So for the left-tailed test, we're going to compare two sample means, sample 1, sample 2, and again for left-tailed, sample 1 is less than sample 2. For these hypotheses, I would always go with the sample that's giving you the directional tail as sample 1. It's just going to make your life easier. If you flip them, you can find the same results, but sometimes people get confused. And the more that you don't confuse yourself, the easier it'll be. Right-tailed, again, sample 1 will be greater than sample 2. And if you want to know if there's a difference or no difference, you're going to use the two-tailed.